Hello again, everybody. This is D Twisted D4E here, and I want to welcome you all to another one of my, I guess, fan fiction, reading fan fiction stories videos. I guess it's kind of become, in my mind, a completely, seemingly unofficial. Well, I guess it's official because I made a playlist for it, but uh, series, I guess, on my channel. Because the other ones are mainly either random videos and shit, or in this case for me, it's my gameplay of like WWE wrestling wrestling video games mainly. That's again completely besides the point. So I made a video yesterday about one of the stories that I originally had read. Like I don't remember the timeline exactly of when I read the story. Like, just kind of like I did the one with the a feeling of being loved. That story, which I then wrote, or at some point I rewrote as with my two my RPOC characters, Aaron Wynter and Jan Cook. This one is another one of those. This one's I Am Here, Asuna from Sword Online, X Aaron Wynter. I guess I decided that I'd read this one, and then I'm also gonna start trying to read certain other bits. Like for me, it's gonna be either I'm gonna start I might make some of these. I might make separate playlists for because it will make it a little easier to separate the ones that are gonna be multi parts. Because obviously some of them I'm not gonna either be able or won't try to read all at once. So there is that, obviously. But anyways, so this one, yeah, like I said, so character info here: favorite color purple, favorite foods burritos. It changes really. The username, because this is based off of SAO, Winter's Extreme Storm. His hair color dark brown. It's black there. That's besides the point. Medium hair length, brown eye color. Preferred name Aaron. First name Aaron, last name Winter. Just put some photos there, and then here's the story. Asuna Yuki SAO, Aaron Winter. So this is no POV. It has been a year since Kirito entered Sword Art Online by clearing the last four with his in-game wife Asuna. You were trapped there too, and as a result, became close friends with Asuna before she met Kirito. You had feelings for her, but when she got with Kirito, you just accepted it. That I guess you wouldn't have gone. That my character wouldn't have gone with her. I guess they left the floor you were on to advance without telling you in person. Asuna did message you to tell you, though, which you were thankful for. Once that madness has ended, you entered physical therapy like all the others, and today was your first day at a new school where survivors of SAO seem to go. So now this is this is Aaron's POV now. Man, I'm damn tired. That's me right now. That therapy is kicking my ass. But today may be good since I'm starting out at the new school. I got my uniform and everything. Though I did add a certain ribbon to my belt loop. I wonder how she's doing. It's been a year since we were freed, and I haven't seen or heard from her since. I shake my head at the thought and keep moving forward. I wonder if any of the other survivors have nightmares. I walk to the classroom and knock accordingly. They seem to be watching something, so the teacher pauses the movie and must as soon take the opportunity to stretch out. The teacher opens the door, and I present the papers to her, and she reads them over. Mrs. Akira. Ah, I knew you were going to be a bit late since you had to pick everything up, Mr. Winter. I'm Miss Akira. Please come in. Miss Akira said to me as she stepped aside. I bowed respectfully and entered the room. Many students were looking at me right now. Or looking right at me now. Class, this is our new student, Aaron Winter. He just transferred from another high school since he had to move. He, like many of you, is a survivor of SAO, Miss Akira stated with authority. Many of the class started whispering, and a few I see give me a look of understanding. Now, anything you want to add, young man? Miss Akira asked me as she turned to me. I think for a moment. I just hope everyone is alright after all that, I said, not really looking at everyone. I can see the teacher give me a small look of concern, but she nods. She points to a seat next to a girl with small pigtails, black hair, and glasses. I sit down carefully and place my bag beside me. The teacher asks Rika, the girl next to me, to share her notes on the movie so I'm not lost. Thanks, I said quietly as the movie started back up. I quickly skimmed through the notes before taking a look around. My eyes landed on a girl with long orange hair, pale skin, and amber eyes. My eyes widened. Asuna? Time skip. It was now lunchtime, but to be honest, I'm half tempted not to go. One reason is because I'm bound to be asked many questions. The other is Asuna will be there. Seeing her again after all this time, I'm not sure if she'd remember me, but I'm going to lunch because I want to see if she does. So here I am in the lunchroom looking around, and there she is with her headphones, smiling as she speaks to her friends. Kirito's nowhere to be seen, though, which is odd. I take a deep breath and walk over to her. I reach to tap her shoulder, but hesitate for a moment. It takes a moment to find my resolve and tap her shoulder. She turns and smiles at me. Hey, you're the new kid, right? Asi asked me kindly. I feel my face smile fade a bit at the question. She seems to notice since her face turns into one of concern. Are you okay? Asuka, Asuna asked me with a concern. I just stemmed my lips before speaking. You don't remember me? I said a bit sadly. Asuna tilts her head at me before taking a closer look at me. I then hear her gasp before I hear her stand. I then get pulled into a tight hug, which takes me by complete surprise. Oh my god, it's you! She said very happily. She pulled away and looked at me, smiling wide. Winter's extreme storm. I missed you. Austin said. Austin said happily. I smiled and hugged her back. I didn't think you'd remembered me. He said happily as I hugged her. She immediately laughed a bit and pulled away. She asked me to sit next to her as her friends watched the two of us. How could I forget my best friend? Austin asked me, smiling. I chuckled a bit, but her smile fades as she looks a little regretful. I'm sorry I didn't get to say goodbye in person. I wanted to, but we were in a rush, Asuna said sadly. I looked at her and once and saw the look of the regret on her face. I smiled and hugged her once more. It's okay, Asuna. I'm just happy you remember me, I said happily. Asuna breathed out in relief and hugged me back before we began eating. She would smile at me when she looked at me as we went, and I felt old feelings swelling up again. Damn it, Heart, you know she's taken. So stop that right now. Of course I would. I'm just glad you made it out. I was so worried since I never got to hear from you again, Austin said to me kindly. She then hugged me gently, which I returned happily. I'm glad you made it through. I knew you could. I knew you would. He said, smiling. She pulled back and tilted her head in a cute way. You were so strong and compassionate by the time you met Kirito. I knew you'd make it, I said to her kindly. Asuna gets a dusting of pink on her cheeks before giggling a bit. Thanks, Aaron. You're just as kind as I remember, Asuna said happily. I nodded my head and we both began chatting as we started eating our lunch with our friends. We all talked through lunch, though Kirito never joined us, despite the fact that Asuna confirmed he went to the same school. She assumed he was busy since he had to work on a project, which I guess could be true. I'd bet he's on the roof. He spent the entire time catching up as much as we could. We talked about our lives and what has happened since we were let out of that hellhole. After school was over and we were all headed home, I ended up asking Austin something. Do you get nightmares about the whole ordeal? I asked a bit worriedly. Austin stops walking and looks at me with concern. I do after you and Kirito left. I was ambushed by a player killer guild. They wanted my weapon, Guardian Soul. They were players too, I explained sadly as I stood there. I can see Austin give me a sad look. I have nightmares about that day. I almost killed someone. They were real, Austin, and I nearly killed them, I explained. Shaking my head to myself. We stand there in silence for a moment, but I feel someone grab my hand gently and look to see Austin give me a sympathetic look. You didn't kill them, though, Austin said to me kindly. I just sigh and she smiles a bit at me. I do have bad memories from that time, but being with my friends helps me a lot. If you ever have one of those nightmares again, please don't feel afraid to tell me. I know I left you alone when I left, Austin said, looking to the side with shame. She then looked back at me with a soft look on her face. But I still care about you. I want to help you if you let me, Asa said to me kindly. I look at her and I swear I can see a twinkle in her eye, but what really amplifies her beauty is how the sun is reflecting off her face. I then just smile and nod to her. I will. Thank you, Asuna, for being such a good friend even after all this time, I said, smiling. Asuna giggled and hugged me, which I happily returned. I relished in the feeling before she pulled back, and we began walking home once more. She smiles the entire time we walk, and I can't help but smile back. She's just, she's just, she's just how I remember, which only makes my old feelings come back more and more. It's been a time skip. It's been a couple of months since I got reunited with Austin. Now, heck, I even saw Kirito and Silica at that time, or as their actual names go, Kirigaya and Ayano, respectively. Huh, now that I think about it, Austin was the only one who used her actual name in some way. However, Austin has been telling me Kirito has been distancing himself from Asuna for some reason. He won't tell her what is wrong. She's really worried about him. I wonder what's bothering him. Is he having issues with the memories, or no? No, he wouldn't. He's not that kind of guy, is he? I mean, sure, he didn't care all that much when Asuna met him in SAO, but surely he's gotten over that. Maybe it's something else. I am sitting in my room since it's the weekend. I haven't touched any of the games, short of no console stuff since SAO, and even then, it's very limited. It just brings back too many memories, and I can't handle it for too long. I do see that Asuna is playing a new game of some kind. I haven't bothered memorizing the name or anything since I have no intention on playing it. I have read some stories online when heard my messenger go off. I look at it, and see Asuna's asked me if I can come over. I tell her I can, and I get up and get ready to do so. Once I am ready, I tell my mom I'm going out before starting the short trek to Austin's house. Once I get there, I knock on the door, and once I hear a short, muffled voice saying, "Come in," I do. I walk in and see Asuna crying. I rush over to her and kneel in front of her. Asuna, what happened? I asked Tad frantically. She said nothing, but lunged at me and hugged me tightly with her arms around my neck before, as she sobbed into my shoulder. I hugged her back and repositioned myself so she can rest against me as I kneel on the floor. I rub her back. What happened? I asked Austin softly. She pulled back, sniffling as tears continued to fall down her face. I discovered Kirito kissing another girl, Asuna said shakily before breaking down to tears again. I go wide-eyed at the information and hold her tighter. No, 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 no way. I'm so sorry, I whispered to Asuna as I held her. She just continued to sob into my shoulder as I sat there and tried to process the information. I didn't think Kirito would be capable of something so terrible. Why? Why would he do that to Asuna? I want to ask, but I want to comfort Asuna more. I just hold her and run my fingers through her long hair to try and help her calm down. It seems to work as her sobs lessen more and more until she's now just crying a bit. I then swallow a lump in my throat since I'm not sure if I should ask or say anything. At the end, I decide to ask. You don't have to tell me, but did he explain himself, or do I need to go get an explanation? I said, tad angrier than I meant to. Asuna pulled back and sat on the couch. I sat next to her, and she kept looking at her lap. He said I was cheating on him with you, Asuna said. As she looked at me sadly, I go white at that. Why was I? Why this happened? Let me tell you the whole story, Asuna says. She tried to relax. I listened to her intently. So this is a flashback, and we're in Asuna's point of view. Ayano and Rika told me they saw Kirito around here somewhere. He's been so distant lately, and I wanted to ask him why, but he just waved it off. So I tend to ask him exactly what is wrong so we can fix it together. Okay, so they said he was at the food court. So I placed my hand over my mouth as tears well up in my eyes. There he was, the man I loved, the man I thought loved me, kissing another girl. I had to fight back tears so I can confront him. I slowly make my way to him, trying to keep myself calm. Once I am close enough, he looks at me but doesn't seem all that worried. Why? Why would you do this? I thought you loved me, I said, trying not to break down into tears. I simply can't believe this. Why? Have I done something wrong? Await his reply, but I get something else first. He merely frowned at me before speaking up. I thought you loved me. You spent so much time with that other kid. Aaron, right? Kirito asked me flatly. I don't understand. Does he think that I'm seeing? I don't get to finish that thought as he continues. I know you're seeing him behind my back, the way you look at him, even when you're with me, Kirito said with a hint of hurt in his voice. More tears come from my eyes as I shake my head. He's my best friend, and unlike you or me, he still gets nightmares about all the times he was nearly killed in SAO. Of course, I try to make sure he's happy. I would never cheat on you. Did I ever give you a reason to think otherwise until my best friend comes back into my life? I asked angrily with tears flowing down my face. He seemed surprised by my outburst, but I continue. Do you honestly think that little of me? I asked him sadly as more tears come from my eyes. I would never cheat on you. I loved you, I said as a sob finally escaped my throat. I see his face contort to one of regret. He reached for me, but I took a step back. I guess that wasn't good enough. I loved you, but it wasn't enough, I said, crying before running off. I knew Kirito wants to chase after me, but he doesn't. He knows he's ruined us. I just ran home quickly, trying to comprehend what happened. I would have never done what he accused me of, yet he was trying to get back at me for something I would have never done to him. Now I know exactly how little he thinks of me and my best friend. Once I get home, I go straight to the couch and sob into a pillow. Why did he do this? That's all I keep asking myself. And the flashback, Aaron's POV. Asuna began crying again through this, though this time she just leaned into my chest. I have to take some time to comprehend what she just told me. I did this. Just because she's my best friend, he did it to her. Why? I never flirted with her. Yes, I may really like her, if not love her, but I would never make moves on a taken person. That's dishonorable. Did he think that little of me or her? Maybe he just has low self-esteem. Either way, he's ruined the relationship and it can't be fixed. So I just sit here holding the girl I love as she lets out all her sorrows. I hold her and press her tightly against my chest as she cries, rubbing her back and resting my chin on her head. I'm so sorry, Asuna. From what you told me, you two seem so happy, I said apologetically in a soft tone. She merely whimpers against me. I want to help, but I don't finish as I do not know what to say to her. I just reside holding her a tad tighter to comfort her further. I begin to think I come up with an idea. Hey, Asuna. Hey, Asuna, I said quietly to her. She looks at me with her red eyes. I know I'm no black swordsman, but if you ever need anything, just tell me, okay? I asked her with a kind smile. She sniffles and keeps looking at me. You've been such a good friend since we met again, and I want to be the same to you, I said, smiling kindly with the soft eyes. She pulled back a bit and wiped her eyes. Okay, thank you, Asuna said, sounding happier. She didn't hug me fully and sniffled once more. I guess we'll be able to hang out more, Asuna said a bit sadly. As no, it's not the idea of spending time with me, but the reason she's so sad about it is why we can. I rub her back. He was an idiot, Asuna. He knew better, yet he did it anyway. Don't blame yourself. You're a wonderful person. He just couldn't see that due to his jealousy, I said comfortingly. She sighed against me, but then pulled away. I know you loved him. The way you looked at him when the three of us went to the arcade was proof enough. When you two went inside, I stayed outside, but still, I said with a small chuckle. I see Asuna smiles a bit at that since she has since pulled back. But things happen. I'm here for you, and that's what friends do, right? I asked Asuna kindly to Asuna. She smiled and giggled a bit, but nodded her head yes. Yes, that's what we do, Asuna said, smiling through the tears. I smiled more and helped her wipe them away. Can you stay here for a bit? I don't feel like going out, Asuna asked me, looking down. I leaned back on the couch and nodded my head. I'll be here all night if you need, I said kindly. She looked at me and smiled. She then sat next to me and we just watched some stupid videos on YouTube to pass the time. Oh, that's what I do. I knew some funny ones that would easily make her laugh. So I pulled up the best ones and had her watch text to speech dog words and watched as she totally lost it watching the dog bark. I sat her there laughing with her. I smiled as she kept giggling at what she just watched. I'll be here to help you, Austin, I promise. It's a time skip and we're back to Austin's POV. It's been about 2 weeks, maybe a little less since here tonight ended things. He tried contacting me to apologize, but I ignored his attempts. He didn't trust me enough to have another guy friend, so why bother? I frowned at the thought. I've been getting over him slowly, but it still hurts. Aaron has been a huge help to me, though. He doesn't let me mope around and takes me places. Carnivals, the mall, and anything else he thinks will make me happy. I really appreciate it, to be honest, and it makes me feel so cared for. Yeah, cared for. Right now, I am waiting in the food court at the mall for Aaron to smile at myself. I up until I see someone sit across from me, look up thinking it's Aaron, but getting a surprised look seeing it's Kirito. I frowned at him, was about to get up, but he said something. Please just sit so we can talk this out, Kirito said, sounding very upset. I'm half attempted not to, but I sighed, stepped back down, and crossed my arms. Be quick. I'm expecting a friend, I said a bit sourly. He flinches at my tone, but nods his head before placing his elbows on the table, leaning a bit forward. Look, I messed up. No, scratch that. I caused the disaster that made us break up. Just say you fucked up, dude. And I'm sorry, Kirito said sadly as he looked down. I look at him, waiting to continue. Look, I still care about you. I know what I did was horrible, but all I'm asking for is a chance. Please, Kirito asked, looking at me with sad eyes. I am actually surprised at what he's asking. He accuses me of cheating, proceeds to get back at me by kissing another girl. I see Aaron approaching the table and he seems worried for me, but I look back at Kirito. You accuse me of cheating, to get back at me by kissing another girl, and then expect me to try a relationship with you again? I may be able to forgive you for what you did at some point, but we can never be together again. You didn't trust me despite all that I've done for you. So the answer is no. We can be friends once I'm able to move past this, but we can't be together again. It would just happen again. Or am I wrong? I asked Kirito seriously. He didn't answer. Look, you messed up. I'm just gonna say it. You fucked up. These are the consequences. I don't resent you, but I don't want to go through that a second time, I said, as I looked at Aaron, who was standing out of earshot for my privacy's sake. Well, worth a shot. I do hope we can be friends at least again. Kirito said as he looked at me, a tad hopeful, though the sadness at his rejection he just received is still there. I smiled a small bit. In time, we can be. My friend is here, so I have to go, I said as I stood up. He did as well, and I patted his shoulder. Just give it time, I said with a small smile. He nodded before looking at who was waiting. When he sees Aaron, he looks away in shame. Maybe we should make peace with him, too. He's been helping me through my sad spell since, I said, not really wanting to say it since it still hurts to think about. Kirito, to my surprise, agrees, and we both approach Aaron. Aaron is frowning a bit, but it's more out of worry, I think. I assumed the worst of you, and I'm sorry. I should have known better. Kirito said, looking down. Aaron seems surprised at this and looks at me. I nodded to him, telling him it's genuine, and he just looked at Kirito. Aaron then placed a hand on his shoulder, and Kirito looked at him. Despite the nightmares I have on occasion, there was a saying I heard I think fix this. Aaron said to him calmly. Kirito and I both look at him with curiosity. Each of us is the architect of our own actions, and we must suffer the consequences alone. Either they be glorious or tragic, Aaron said calmly. That actually surprises me. It does fit here. You have no reason to think I would take her away, but it happened. I forgive you, but I'm not the one you wronged, Aaron said as he looked at me. I smiled a bit, but I looked at Kirito. He nodded understanding before looking back at me. I'll do whatever it takes to make up for this, I promise, Kirito said with conviction. I smiled at me and smiles back before walking away from me and Aaron. I watch him walk off before looking at Aaron, who's smiling too. He meant it, I think. He's not a bad guy, just foolish sometimes, Aaron said with a chuckle. I then smile and hug him suddenly, and he takes a step back to catch himself. Huh? What's up? Not I'm complaining, Aaron said happily. I giggled a bit and pulled back and smiled at him. You're amazing. I expected, I don't know, a lecture, insults, but you're so mature, I said with a bit of admiration. That made Aaron blush a tad, but he smiles nevertheless. What? Don't you get compliments? I asked him jokingly. But to my surprise, he shook his head no. No, not really. I don't fish for them, which makes that more apparent, but most people don't bother no matter what I do, Aaron said calmly. Well, that's dumb, but at least he's not upset about it. I'll be sure to compliment you more then, I said happily. He smiled more at that, and we both sat down. I already ordered for us. I hope you still love it. Still love it. Still love it, Aaron, I said, smiling. He nodded his head, smiling, and I smiled more. Good. That would have been awkward, I said, shaking my head. He merely chuckled. The fact you thought to buy me any food means a lot to me, as is. I would have eaten it regardless, Aaron said, smiling. I look at him the way he's looking at me in a soft way. I begin to see how cute he looks in his way. That gentle smile and the way his eyes are looking at me nearly makes me falter, but I just waved him off. "Aw, thanks," I said happily. He smiled more. We then heard a laugh, and we both looked over to see some fellow survivors talking. Aaron seems to listen, and I do as well, or try to. From where I am, it's kind of hard. But Aaron, as he listens, seems to close his eyes for some reason. He then shakes his head, but seems to stare at the table blankly. I see his eyes twitching about. He's remembering something. I need to pull him out of that memory now. I grab both of his hands of mine and squeeze him gently. He blinks a few times and looks at me. They were talking about SAO, weren't they? I asked Aaron kindly. He looked away and nodded his head. It's so stupid, isn't it? My happy-go-lucky demeanor is broken by a conversation about what happened, he said, shaking his head at himself. I frowned at that and reached up to smack him upside the head. He looks at me surprised and I'm frowning at him. It's not stupid. You can't help what's wrong with you. What happened to you hurt you greatly, so it's natural to feel like that when you hear about that stuff. It's not stupid, and neither are you, I said with authority. He seemed surprised by my tone. I never want to hear you say that again, I said seriously. He still seems surprised, but he slowly smiles and looks down. Thanks, Asuna. I'll try. Aaron said, looking at me, looking a bit happier. I smiled at that, but he continues. Your compassion. I'm glad to see you never lost it, Aaron said gently to me. I blushed a bit at his tone, but smiled nevertheless. Yeah, I hung on to it as tightly as I could, I said happily. He chuckled at that. The food then arrived finally, and we began eating our lunch before we spent the day together. We chatted as we ate. Why I chatted as he listened mostly. He's a good listener, and he's such a good listener, and he always has some advice when I have a problem. Heh, that day he came to me and showed me that much. After we ate, the two of us began walking around the mall together. He didn't really intend on buying anything, but he just wanted to hang out with me, which is awfully nice. We went to many stores to just window shop, but then we came to a game store. He waited outside. He told me that ever since SAO, video games have made him uneasy. I nodded and went inside. I did promise to hurry for his sake. I walked in and saw many wonderful things, but something that caught my eye was a plushie from that console game Kingdom Hearts. It's Shadow, I think. I think Aaron said he was a fan before SAO happened, so maybe I could get it for him. It's on sale with my membership. It won't cost me but $10, which is sweet. I grabbed it and grab it and something I wanted and approached the counter. Nice to see you, Asuna, the clerk said to me happily. I smile back at him as he takes my arms from me. He rings them up, but stops when he sees Aaron standing outside. Isn't this usually the other way around where the girl's outside waiting? The clerk teased with a wink. He means nothing by it. I know, but he should know this. He's a good friend of mine, actually. He survived SAO like me. Unlike me, though, it affected him greatly. So video games make him uneasy, so... Though he said he's working through that, I said, smiling out at the boy. The clerk gave me a nod of understanding as he rang off the plushie. He also scanned my membership card. Makes sense. Anyway, how are you and Kirito doing? The clerk asked me kindly. I don't know how he told to tell him that we broke up, but he continues. You guys were really happy the last time I saw you two, the clerk said happily. I can feel the tears well up behind my eyes. I don't want to be reminded of that here. I just stand there motionless as the clerk gives me a look of concern. Back to Aaron's POV. I am still waiting for Austin outside, but I'm starting to wonder what's taking so long. I peek through the window and see Austin staring at the counter, looking stunned. I know exactly what happened. I rush inside, ignoring my own discomfort to go take care of Asuna. I walk in and grab her shoulders. She looks at me and I thin my lips for having her hug me. I look at the clerk and take the bag. I just asked her how she and Kirito were doing, the clerk says with a bit of aggressive voice. I sigh a bit and shake my head as I rubbed Asuna's back. Kirito did something foolish and it hurt Asuna, I explained partially since I didn't want to divulge everything that happened. He nodded his head and looked down. You couldn't have known. Kirito apologized, but it still hurts as you can imagine. I know it, I said as I pulled Asuna back to look at her. Want to go home? I asked her kindly. She nodded her head. I smiled before rubbing her arms gently. Let's go home then, I said kindly. I looked at the clerk and nodded to him before leaving the bag in one hand and my arm around Asuna's shoulders. I say nothing as we walk back since I don't want to break down in public. I know she'd hate that. Once we get to her house, I sit her on the couch. Her parents are home right now. They had to go out of town for a few days. Me at work, I think. Can't remember. I place the bag in her room before going back to the couch. I sit down and hold my arms open for her, and she falls against me. I see the tears crawl down her face, though she does not sob. That's an improvement, at least. I just hold her for a while. Despite the fact that you forgive him at some point, it still hurts, I said calmly to her. She sniffled and nodded her head at that. Makes sense, like you told me. The stuff affects you deeply. I'm here, though, Asuna. I'm here, I said to her gently. I see her smile a bit through the tears, though she does continue to just sit there with me. I just continue rubbing her back, then get an idea. Hey, you remember I was a bard, right? I asked Asuna kindly. She nodded and looked at me. Want me to sing? That wasn't faking SAO, I said, smiling kindly. She looked a bit surprised, but smiled a bit. If you don't mind, I would like it, Asuna said to me kindly. I nodded and she leaned back against me once more. Just sing what you want. I'm sure it'll be nice no matter what you choose, Asuna said to me a bit weakly. I then began racking my brain for a song I knew she'd like. I then smiled as I picked one. Okay, I have one I think you'll love, I said, smiling kindly. She nodded and I cleared my throat. When you walk away, you don't hear me say, please, oh baby, don't go. Simple, clean is the way you're making me feel tonight. It's hard to let it go. I'm not gonna fucking sing this. I sang to her softly. I see her eyes widen at my song choice. I know the words may affect her a bit, but that's the point. You're giving me too many things lately. You're all I need. Oh, you smiled at me and said, don't get me wrong, I love you, but does that mean I have to meet your father? When we are older, you'll understand what I meant when I said, no, I don't think life is quite that simple. I sing softly as she rested against me. I see her contemplating the words. I tighten my grip on her a bit. When you walk away, you don't hear me say, babe, please, oh baby, don't go. Simple and clean is the way that you're making me feel tonight. It's hard to let it go. I sang once more, though this time I kept going. The daily things like this and that, and what that keeps us keep us all busy all day. All confusing me. That's when he came to me and said, wish I could prove I love you, but that doesn't mean I have to walk on water. When we are older, you'll understand. It's enough when I say so, and maybe things are that simple. I paused there to gauge her reaction. I can see her bittersweet smile as she processes the words. I decided to end the song there and loosen my hold on her. Then it's not the whole song, but I thought you might like it, I said, smiling at her. She looked up at me and hugged me. I did, I really did. Asuna said happily, though there are still hints of sadness in her voice, which is to be expected. Kirita he didn't hear me say come back. You chose that song on purpose, didn't you? Asuna said, after she pulled away from me. I nodded, confirming I did. If it, I'll give you that, Asuna said with a weak giggle. I pat her head as she wipes her eyes. She then smiled gently at me, and I stopped patting her head. She then hugged me gently. Thank you for everything. She whispered in my ear. I hugged her back, smiling. You're such a good friend and a person, Asuna said to me kindly. I chuckled as she pulled away again. Thanks, it's what friends do, right? Like when you came to my house that night when I had the nightmare, how you convinced your parents to let you stay to come over to my place alone, I will never know, I said, chuckling at the thought. Asuna giggled a bit. What surprised me even more was when they saw me again. They asked if I was all right. I suppose I see where your compassion comes from, I said, smiling. She nodded her head and we sat there for a time. Do you think, Asuna seems to delay what she wants to say, do you think that he still loves me? Asuna asked me, sounding unsure. I sighed deeply and and look at her. She's not looking at me, but I can see her wanting a response from me. I do, but I also know that you know he broke the trust you shared. I said honestly to her. She frowned more but nodded her head. It's natural to wonder about that thing, but you should ask yourself a question. Can I trust him fully to be with him once more? In time, I'm sure you could, but right now, no. Heck, by the time that trust is rebuilt, he or you may have moved on. When a door closes, you shouldn't try to force it open again. It may hurt, I said to her calmly. I could see the hurt in her face, but I know she needed to hear it. She sighs deeply and nods her head in understanding. Doesn't mean he won't be part of your life. I mean, heck, I came back over the year after you had to leave me, and I'm part of your life still. So even if you can't be a couple again, I promise you'll be the best of friends, I said reassuringly as I swung my arm around over her shoulder. She smiled a bit at that, and she then nodded. You're right again, she said, shaking her head, which made me chuckle. Sure, we may never be able to be together again, but we can still always be friends still. Asuna said, sounding happier at the thought. She then looks at me with a curious look. Have you ever, been in love or something like that? You seem to know a lot of good advice about it. Austin asked me kindly. I look away a bit. I was in love once, but it didn't work out. I tried to be honest, but not saying why. She looked at me a bit sad and asked me something I really wish she wouldn't ask. What do you mean, and why wouldn't it work out? She asked us and asked me with concern. I don't want to tell her no, I am in love with her, but I can't lie to her. A half truth then. I then felt someone make me turn. I see Asuna is looking at me with concern. You can tell me, Asuna says, trying to reassure me kindly. I say sigh and go with the half truth. She fell in love with someone else a long time ago. It sucked, but she was happy, it seemed, so I just smiled as they went about their ways, I said, smiling a bit sadly. I wanted to tell her, but I didn't. It sucks, but I'm alright, I said, looking at Asa with a smile. Her look of concern didn't leave her face. Alright, I'll admit it hurts. It hit me harder than I expected it to as I watched her walk away with her boyfriend. But what can I do? She was happy, which should be enough for me, right? I asked Asuna. She keeps giving me that look of concern before speaking. It's okay to be upset. You loved her, and if she couldn't see that, then she was a fool. You're such a great guy, Aaron, so it's okay to be upset, like I am now, Asuna said, frowning a bit. She then smiled at me. At least we still have our best friends, right? Asuna asked me. I look at her and smile. Sure, I can't be with her right now, but I don't know. She'll always be there for me. Yeah, you're right, I said happily. She giggled and hugged me. I hugged back happily. I guess we're both feeling better, much better now. She pulled back, and we decided to try and do things much happier things than moping around. I may not be able to date her, but I'm more than happy to have her in my life. Though do feel bad for something. I wonder if there's a chance for me to be with her. Time skip, Asuna's POV. It's been a few months since me and Kirito broke up, and thanks to Aaron, I am completely over it. Though I do feel different when I'm around him now. Nervous for one thing, and flustered is another. I only felt like this with Kirito. Austin Iono keeps teasing me that I have a crush on Aaron, and I think they might right or wrong. I don't know. I am currently walking to Aaron's house so we can study together, but I end up seeing Kirito running up to me. I smile and wave at him, and he waves back, but he seems so nervous. Hey, Kirito, how are you? I ask him happily. He smiles, but I see the nervous look in his eyes. What's eating at him, I wonder? He takes a breath for speaking. I'm good, Austin. I hope you're all right too, Kirito replied with a smile. I nodded and he smiled more before looking a bit nervous again. I have a question, Kirito said nervously. I tilted my head at him, but what he asked me was what I was not expecting. Do you want to go out with me again? To try again? Kirito asked me nervously. I'm taken a bit aback by this. I don't know how to respond to that, or how do I respond to that? I mean, I am over with him as of now. I looked down and sighed. Kirito, I knew this was coming, I said, shaking my head. I looked up at him with a more serious face. The answer is no, Kirito, I thought. As Aaron helped me through my sadness, but I would love to be with you again. But as time went on, I knew that wasn't true. You're hurting me badly, and I don't want to go through with that again, I said seriously to him. Kirito looked shocked before looking down. He then looked back at me. So that's it then? All that time together is over? I'm willing to fix this, Austin. Is that not enough? Kirito asked me with hurt in his voice. I sighed and shook my head at him. Nope, that's not going to work. I've played this exact conversation in my head 1,000 times. No, Kirito, if we got back together, we'd end up breaking up again. You didn't trust me, so how can I expect you to trust me this time? I want to remain your friend, but if we get together again, it would break that friendship completely, I said to Kirito seriously. He looked away before his eyes seemed to widen, and he looked at me. It's Aaron, isn't it? You love him, don't you? Kirito asked me seriously. I go wide-eyed at the accusation, and he sighs deeply. That's exactly it. What has he done that I haven't done to make you love him instead? Kirito asked me in a slightly upset tone. I know he doesn't hate Aaron or me. He's just upset at me rejecting him once more. I didn't look at him with a small glare. One thing he's never done is betray my trust. What if I love him? Why is that a problem? I asked Kirito seriously. He still looked upset, though his harder look from before vanishes entirely and is replaced by a sad one. Just answer the question. Do you love him? Kirito asked me once more, though it was far softer than before. I guess he just wants confirmation. I mean, do I? Well, I'm not. I stop myself as I think back to all the things Aaron has done for me over the time I've known him. All those nights in SAO where he comforted me when we learned when we were trapped. Him helping me grind through those first few levels. How he saved me from dying to our first boss. How he helped me when Kirito cheated on me. How he gave me so much advice over the past few months. How he makes me smile. How he makes me flustered when he says something nice about me. I realize now that I was a fool. I do love him. I do love him, I said, sounding a bit overwhelmed at my realization. Kirito looked surprised. He was there for me before I met you in SAO and helped me a lot in those early days. He stayed right by my side when I broke down after finding out what you did, and he even stayed all night with me. I do love him, I said, smiling finally at the thought. After all this time I've known him, I do love him. I just hope he loves me too. Kirito sighs and looks at me. Well, he stops to take a big sigh. Smiles a bit at me. At least he's a good guy. I learned that much when we became friends again, Kirito said, shaking his head. You should go tell him, and make sure he doesn't screw up like me, Kirito said to me a bit sadly. Ian smiles more and hugs me. I hug back and he looks at me once he pulls away. Go on, go get your man, Kirito said, sounding a bit happier. I giggled and nodded before I started running to Aaron's house. I don't pay much attention to my surroundings as I run straight to Aaron's. Once I'm there, I knock on the door quickly and I don't have to wait too long. Aaron answers the door and smiles at me. Asuna, Aaron says as he hugged me. I blush and hug him back. He lets me inside, and I'm surprised to see him see some takeout on his coffee table. I thought you might be hungry, Aaron said, blushing a bit. I smiled at him and hugged him once more. That's so thoughtful of you. Like I should expect something different from someone so kind, I said to him happily. He blushed more as we sat down. He reached for some food, but I stopped him. I need to tell you something before we eat, as I said, as I felt the nervousness build up. He nodded, and I steadied myself for this confession I'm about to give. Aaron's POV. I sit there patiently as Asuna seems to try and gather herself before saying anything. She then nods to herself before looking at me with her amber eyes. You've been such a good friend since an SAO, always sitting by me, even after I left you behind. I don't know what I've done to deserve you, Asuna said to me. Her her eyes seem to be brimming with an emotion I can't quite place yet. I place my hand on hers and she seems to blush. You were there for me for everything, the early days of SAO, and when Kirito cheated on me. I've come to realize something, Asuna said nervously. She began stumbling over her words, so I gently squeezed her hand to try and help her. It's okay, Asuna, just take all the time you need, I said kindly to her. She seems to blush quite a bit at that. Maybe it was the soft tone I used. She just sits there for a moment, staring into my eyes with that same emotion from before, which is hard for me to discern. She seems to make a small noise in her throat. I get worried. Asuna, are you... I don't get to finish as Asuna did something I only hoped she would. She slammed her lips onto mine, taking me by utter surprise. I can feel her lips quivering against mine out of being nervous, and that blush on her face tells me the same. Her eyes are closed rather tightly, again, likely from nervousness. Her quivering stops though when I close my eyes and push back on her lips with my own. I feel my arms go around her arms go around my neck as the kiss continues. Never in my life would I think the woman I loved would kiss me like this. She was in love once before, and after all, we stayed that way, kissing one another for a time after my hands rested against her sides. We had to pull away to breathe, however, as we were panting, we were staring at one another. And now I know what that emotion in her eyes was, love. I smile warmly at her. She smiles back before kissing me again. This one, unlike before, is a short, sweet, and full of love. When we pull away, I swear I'm on the verge of tears. You love me? I ask in near disbelief. Asuna nods happily, and I smiled wider. Oh my god, I love you too. I always did, even when you were with Kirito. I just wanted you to be happy, I said as I laughed a bit. Asuna giggled and kissed my cheek. That girl you were talking about was me? Asuna asked me kindly. I nodded, and she smiled lovingly at me. And you never said anything because you wanted me to be happy? You really are a wonderful friend, or should I say boyfriend, Asuna asked me with a hope. I kissed her on the lips once more before nodding my head. Yes, nothing would make me happier. You're so compassionate and sweet, not to mention beautiful. How could I say no? I asked Asuna happily. She smiled happily and hugged me tightly for a moment. She then gasped and pulled back. Oh, I got you something. Well, I got a few months back, but I forgot to give it to you since I was upset. Asuna said to me happily. I giggle. I tilt my head as she goes to her bag. She then smiles and she pulls out a shadow plushie. I smile wide at it as she gives it to me. I take it and smile at it. Makes it even better since the sequel got its release window, right? Asuna asked me happily. I nod and place the plushie beside me. I hug her and she hugs me right back. I love you, Asuna said to me with love. I now let the damn tears fall and I hug her tighter. I love you too, Asuna. I always have and will, always will. I promise, I said to her with love. She giggles and pulled back, only to kiss me again. One of many to come, I hope. We stayed together for the rest of the day after eating lunch. We did our homework as planned, but we cuddled the entire time we did. Once we were done, we cuddled as we watched movies together with the occasional kisses thrown in. The woman I love who fell for someone else now loves me. I can scarcely believe it, but here it is. Her heart was broken and now it is fixed, and she chose me to give it to. I will take care of Asuna, I swear. I swear I will. And like I do here, I am giving credit to the original writer, Silver Zero Wisp on DeviantArt. I will say I did initially have plans to read the Eye to Eye Medusa X autistic male reader, or in this case, autistic Aaron Wynter story. But I decided that, I did it initially before using myself. I decided I'm not going to do it here, and then I'm still kind of iffy on if I want to reread the Loved Orphan. Was it the Asami X Korra story? In this case, it'd be Asami X Korra X Aaron story. I'm not entirely sure if I'll read that one, but I'll figure it out. And then I do have plans to read some other anime and maybe even do a few reading wrestling related ones, but use my characters implemented there. But I'm gonna figure that out, and I think to make it slightly easier for some of the anime and wrestling related ones or fan fiction ones, I'm gonna might make these into playlists so that if I'm doing separate videos that are not related to the same story, they're separate parts so that you can find it easier. I think that would be a lot easier in my mind because if I'm doing multiple parts, it makes it easier to have a playlist for that separate story. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you all in a moment.